go. Recording now. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. This is the Citywide Neighborhood Committee meeting, Thursday, January 26, 6:30, Conference Room A. And the meeting is now called to order. One person is missing and without informing me, but I'll deal with that later.
You did send an email.
Right. Oh, and he sent someone else a note. That's fine. Okay. Comments from the residents. Perhaps you'd like to introduce yourself and say anything you want while you're here, where you know, and how, what you think about things. And
Just like
anything you feel like.
Well, I'm Dave Beadling. I live on Dennett Street now. I used to live on Thornton Street. Moved in there in 1980, and I've seen a lot of changes in the neighborhood. I've been watching progress throughout. A lot of individual homes have been improved over the years, and that's been nice to see. I've been involved a little bit with some sound walls that were proposed for the bypass between that, or 95 rather, and
Oh, the wall.
yeah, the wall between
Yeah.
95 and the New Franklin School, where all my kids went. I guess that's been stalled out because of the definition of the need for the sound walls by the state, saying something along the line that there needs to be a certain population density of residents, which that doesn't qualify for because it's wide open.
Yep.
So in other words, they'd put a hole in there because that community, your community, didn't have sufficient residents.
Right, and they're not, I don't think they recognize the fact that, a lot of the residents aren't even in their homes during the day, but they're there at night, so certainly they want some sound deadening at night. But all day long, those residents as kids are in that school, and they're having to deal with the sound problem, particularly, in the spring and fall, kids are outside, in recess, and then, and I'm sure I'm rehashing what others have expressed in the past.
Well, just to add to what you're saying, I'm not exactly sure where the rules are coming from, whether it's the state or the federal government, but their definition, and I don't even know for sure where it's coming from, because the type 2 noise abatement is not a federal rule. It's something the state did initially. But in this case, they're saying they're using a rule that says for a certain school footage at the highway mark, there has to be so many people impacted. But schools don't count. They count as one residence, as if it's a family that lives there. And they say it's just one family living in that home. So for that one family, that impact is very low. And so they ignore the fact that this is a school with many kids there, and they're there most of the day, and it's not the same as a residence. I don't know, that's the rule they're using. And in addition, they're also saying, well, we don't want to spend any money there because it's a luxury for a wealthy community for it to get us to pay for their sound walls when they don't meet the requirements. So I think that's still being kind of negotiated, and I think Councilor Tabor knows more about the fact that the City Council is looking into moving that forward based on support by the city if the state doesn't come through. Just my speculation on that.
Right, but I'm not sure legally that the city could pay for it all themselves.
That's
running in
probably.
Yes.
So it's an arcane formula, but
Yes.
you take the cost of the wall at a certain height to achieve the sound deadening that you want, and divide it by the number of residences, and if it comes up to the threshold number per residence, you're in. If it doesn't, you're not. And unfortunately, 280 kids at New Franklin don't count as 280 people. If they did, we'd be...
Yeah, no problem.
Is it a federal standard or a state standard we're dealing with? Do you
It's
think?
a state standard.
John? If it's a state standard, isn't there any logic involved? Excuse me. I withdraw my statement.
But the good news is, the Panaway Manor sound barriers have been approved.
I've heard
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks to federal money flowing from Washington as part of the
Right.
Infrastructure Act.
Ah.
And and combined with Route 95 getting another lane. So the addition of the lane triggers the sound mitigation, and the federal highway money was pumped up because of the Infrastructure Act to do the widening, so bing, that one makes it. But this council and the previous council have been working on, is there some workaround we can get for New Franklin? And it's been tough, you know, we don't meet the threshold of cost per house for the mitigation. And we're getting pushback about just doing it by ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, there is an alternative, though, and what's her name? Our traffic engineer, Eby, and I,
Eric Eby.
Eric, we're over at UNH, and UNH has an acoustics department and also has an agricultural department. So we were trying to get them interested in coming up with an alternative abatement program based on vegetation and based on their science. And the truth of it is that, you know, what we're talking about, the expense here, that's the traditional way that the Department of Energy always does noise abatement. Their walls, that's the standard price, okay? But if you want to do it alternatively, because you have to pay for it now, not them, UNH might provide us some alternatives, and maybe it's not as good a mitigation as we want, but it might be just as good to abate most of the impact. So we're going to have to investigate that too, and they'd like to cooperate with us on that.
And the other thing we need to find out is what's federal land for 95?
Yes.
And then what's,
We're city,
What's city land? Yeah.
yes,
if we can't do it on federal land.
right,
Gotcha.
right.
And what's state land too, right? Because there's,
Not on 95.
95,
No, that's all.
Federal
it's all
right away.
federal.
that's the bypass, the state.
That would be the bypass,
Bypass.
that's a different.
Bypasses.
See,
You're
this
right.
is 95
Yeah,
that
right, right.
we're focusing. And you know, the bypass is lower than the 95.
Right.
So
less.
Yeah.
actually, the noise from the bypass doesn't really get to New Franklin acoustically.
Right.
And this is the stuff that UNH wanted to do an accurate acoustic measurement of. Where exactly is the
I think we're
noise
still
there?
going to do.
Yeah, so,
I have two questions, one of the witness. You said only one family. You suggested like only there's one family there, but everyone else was out working. Are you suggesting that there might have been a survey and only one family responded?
Oh, no.
No, okay, I misunderstood.
No, as I understand now, as I recall now that you're mentioning it, the criteria being dwellings, you know, residences.
Dwellings.
Rather than just
Right.
any old building.
Right, so are there a lot of people in that area, in the area that is now, will not be considered?
Most of the residences are actually on the
the other side.
south side of the bypass.
Oh, okay.
Rockingham Avenue in that
So you've
area.
got the bypass.
I understand.
And then there's a
I
strip of land
Yeah.
that is actually, I think, school property.
Yep.
And then there's the interstate. And it's
Yeah.
the interstate that's
Okay.
creating the problem, noise-wise, always has.
And the second question is, Peter, does UNH, is there any idea about if UNH is going to provide some sort of feedback on some of their research that might be useful
Well,
to
as
us?
Eric and I were there, the UNH group, which was both the professor for acoustics and the professor from not agriculture, but
Ag.
forestry area.
Okay.
They were both very excited about the idea of looking at this, but we were told by Peter Rice that they had gotten some money to do the acoustic measurements on their own. That funding was there. And so if we did it through UNH, we'd have to pay them, they'd have to hire some people to do the measurements. But depending on what we come up with, or maybe even together, maybe both of us could do measurements, UNH and us, because they might go at it from a different angle than whoever does it from our side. I don't know.
And it's us, you're talking about the city?
The city, yes,
So how big
Public
is,
Works.
how big is the hole?
The whole,
Well, he said they couldn't get a barrier. I thought there was a barrier on either side.
There's just fencing, it's open.
yeah, there's no barrier on either
Okay,
side,
okay.
just a wooden fence.
Oh,
It's cyclone on one
And
side.
and it's about, what, maybe a quarter mile at the most, that section there?
From the bypass to the interstate, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that stretch that doesn't have any noise abatement?
Yeah, it's.
95, on either side of
Stronger,
95?
yeah, a little stronger than stronger than a quarter mile,
Yeah,
between
okay.
a quarter and a half, I would.
But as we were told
guesstimate.
by the UNH acoustic people, most people don't understand how the sound travels. So you could build a barrier that actually is either too low or too high to actually dampen that acoustic sound. So that's why they need to do good measurements to see at what height, where is the sound actually coming from. You know, who knows, you might be able to put up a couple planks at 6-foot height, and that would do most of the work. I don't know. So that's, yeah.
Interesting.
I was going to say, Panaway Manor was effortless, I mean, they were tireless in their efforts to get that for about
For-
10 years.
since
weren't they?
1980s.
I was gonna say 10 years, I think. So I know how long it took.
Yeah.
Some of us on the last council were very
Yeah.
active.
Yeah.
The key, one of the keys was getting it into the 10-year highway plan,
The lanes.
working with Rockingham County Planning.
Right.
And they were good advocates for us. They helped quite a bit.
Panaway was? Or you
No,
saying no,
Rockingham County.
Rockingham County.
Yeah. But Panaway, the measurements there were 70 decibels.
Yeah.
That's like a lawnmower outside your window.
And the state was proposing not to build a new lane, but to use the breakdown lane as a new lane.
Yes.
So they're not actually building a new lane, they're just usurping the breakdown lane as an extra lane during heavy traffic.
Right.
Yes, that's right.
And that makes the traffic even closer to the Panaway Manor neighborhood than it is now. And in addition, right adjacent to that breakdown lane, there's also a gas substation,
Right.
which was always a bit of a hazard there. So the Unitel people have told me that they're planning to take that out of there.
That's very
Once the
hazardous.
project starts, that they will remove that substation.
That was a conversation 2 years ago.
I know. But the pandemic came, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's more that you ever wanted to know.
Not at all. Very good information, appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. No, very good.
Anything else going over there?
I'm sorry?
Anything else going over there that you'd like to
Oh, you don't want to hear me complain.
do? That's what we're here for.
How are you feeling about, are you up to date on what parking, traffic, and safety is looking at for the Bartlett Street, Kate Street connector intersection by the railroad bridge there? They're floating either a rotary or
That would not
a
be bad.
redone.
Yeah, I'm not up on the latest. I think I heard that
Yeah.
notion. I thought back quite some time ago, there was the notion of actually straightening Bartlett right down to tee it into Islington, but it would have taken the properties that are in that path.
And the bridge.
Yeah, they would have had to move. That's where I think the expense came in, was they're going to move all that granite and we're going to tunnel over here instead of use what we have, so, yeah. But, yeah, a rotary would be an interesting
That
approach.
seems to catch people's
Because
imagination.
right now, it's hazardous.
You know what I'd be curious about is how are those trucks going to go around that rotary? Because there are big trucks coming through there all the time at that intersection, and the rotary is a
Good
pretty
point.
small surface
point.
area.
That's why
I don't see how them turning.
Right, the
Well, you know
rotary
that
is not the DPW's first pick.
Oh, okay.
Well, the
They
road-
have rotaries with a small crown that are designed for that purpose.
Well,
a trailer.
it could be, yeah.
Rotary at Rye is like that, right? At the intersection,
Foy's Corner?
yeah,
Yeah,
right, that's meant for trucks to be able to go over
To
that.
go over, yeah.
but
Oh,
I've never
yeah,
seen a
okay, got it.
semi on that.
It almost needs a traffic light for the cars coming down Woodbury. You know,
Full stop, you mean, not
Woodbury and then extending beyond to that circle.
Onto Bartlett, yeah.
Because I know my son almost went through it this morning.
Yeah.
So didn't they
Did-
just add more, like they added a few stop signs, it just, and they took off a lane, and it just seems like
It's a mishmash right now, I think.
Yeah.
it does, it seems like it worked really well, but,
Yeah.
The flashing stop signs are effective. They are,
Right.
seem.
Yeah.
It's been a work in
Flashing stop
progress.
signs are.
Yeah, it's going to need more attention, that's for
Work
sure.
in progress.
And they're building more units there, I think, right? There's a sign up there, Phase 2 happening or something.
Go out in the what do they
Nothing more
call it,
that
the
hasn't been
yards, the
approved.
West End yards?
Yeah, Weston Yard, I thought there's another section that's not finished yet.
That's out by the U-Haul.
Yeah.
Other things?
Oh, gosh. I was just,
You have a list.
just the only other thing that I really thought about is, and I should do some research on it, is, the city yard said that when schools closed, and this came out Monday, and I mean, I didn't hear, of course, I don't do Twitter, I don't do a lot of, I'm not as connected as I should be, perhaps, but I found out that they were skipping the pickup on Monday, which is our
For
neighborhood.
trash pickup?
Yeah, and I think it extends, I'm not sure where Monday's pickup map is, what that looks like. But it certainly is mostly in what I call the creek, our neighborhood. And it's a bit, well, we're not going to pick it up on Monday because school's closed. And I thought, okay, but we will pick it up on Saturday. And then I thought, well, and then you're going to come back and pick up again on Monday, 2 days, or a day later, a day and a half later, and that I don't understand. You just cancel it, provide the residents with enough
Warning.
recycling bins and things. Oh, yeah, and the warning may have been out there, but I may have
Yeah,
missed it.
I didn't know either whether they're going to pick it up after the storm or not. And, then you have to put it out before the storm comes, and it's in the storm, and then if people don't pick it up, you got to bring it back in again.
Which
I
is,
think they're,
Oh, wet and soggy.
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens, I think, for a lot of people.
because on Tuesday, I think they're picking up, rather than the next day, which they normally would do if something
And
happens.
normally, yeah, if a holiday occurs on Monday, they pick it up on Tuesday.
I think because they're out plowing, they're picking up downtown on Tuesday morning, and then leaving, is it Monday night that you put yours out, or yours is pickup is on Monday
I put mine
night?
out Sunday night
Sunday
for
night for
Monday
Monday
morning,
morning.
or I put it out Monday morning, actually,
Yeah.
early, normally. And
John, do you know if there's a possibility for, like, when trash pickup changes, if they could send out an alert like they do with parking issues in a storm situation? So people know, okay, tomorrow we're not picking up trash.
I can,
It seems like that could be piggybacked onto a parking ban.
yeah,
or
I'll
something.
relay that. I do know they posted it on social media, and
Website or?
I
In the secret.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
think they might have done something to the newsletter list. I
is
don't
it in
know.
reverse 911 or something that is
Yeah.
used for schools? But I didn't see it specifically address trash pickup, nor do I understand if it's canceled on Tuesday for my other neighbors, down closer in town, do they get delayed till Wednesday, or do they wait till Saturday?
Right.
And all these things ran through my mind, well, how much is this going to cost?
The only thing I can say is, there are a lot of open positions, this. So it may be.
That's what I was wondering as well, is the infrastructure, the manpower, the equipment
Yeah, yeah.
availability,
Yeah.
all that stacks up. I
Yeah.
understand it's a complicated.
Yeah.
in the-
I know, yeah.
Indoor
So how's your breathing?
Anyway, those are the only two issues I have.
They do their best.
Okay, yeah. that's,
Yeah, it's hard.
I
That's
hope this
hard.
doesn't dissuade you from coming to another meeting like this.
Oh,
We want you to come, really.
Yeah, just to let you know, we also have forums for the regions, for the wards. So we have ward forums during the year too. So, and people can come out, and at those forums, there's the mayor, the assistant mayor, the police chief, the fire chief, public works.
At this point, we've just added.
School
school
table.
committee, school
City.
committee,
And we have the town manager,
Right, so,
And,
so those
city
people are at
manager.
that forum, so. if you
city
keep-
manager. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I
Do you
keep
get
saying
the
that.
Portsmouth, the newsletter every day, there's a newsletter from City Hall?
I didn't know that was daily, but it comes across.
I can take your
Yeah.
email down and add you to the list.
That'd be
Every
great.
day.
That'd be
So-
great. Yeah,
And then
every
the
day would
trash
be
pickup
helpful.
and things
Yeah,
like that,
absolutely.
those notices are on that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Okay, good. On to the next agenda item. Portsmouth 400 will not be here tonight. I received a text message just a few minutes before the meeting began saying that no one is available. So I asked the textee if she was available, since she wrote me, and she said no, and was on short notice. I will send a note of disappointment to Susan Labrie on this matter. This should not have happened. I wanted them there because we asked for their help on 400 and how we can participate, and a no-show is, especially a couple of people are heavy into the corporate bag, would know better on how to communicate with everyone else. Whatever the situation, no one showed up, and I have had this situation happen before, and I guess we don't need to go into it. Too bad. I'm very sorry about that. All right. Next one is the election of the chair. Normally, we would call for nominations, and nominees can nominate themselves. But in this case, I will first ask, does any individual want to be nominated for chair of this committee? Identify yourself. You can raise your hand.
This is your chance.
My first ever meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so since no one has raised their hand, do I have a nomination for co-chairs?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Elaine Apatang as co-chair.
Thank you. And I'd like
ahead.
to nominate Peter for co-chair.
Nominate Peter for co-chair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Both of them are co-chairs. Co-chairs are part of the bylaws that they're allowed. Co-chairs are allowed in lieu of having a chair and a vice chair. The reason that, John, that we did this is because some of the duties just to run the committee are somewhat onerous, and to split them, and especially to have different people with different thoughts about how to do it is the reason why we did this.
Sorry, I missed that night. That was December, and I had a
Yeah, that was December
Energy
5th,
Advisory
right.
Committee meeting. but-
And was in the minutes, too, I think. Yeah, that's all right. Anyhow, is there any other nominations? And let us take a vote. All those in favor of co-chairs, Elaine and Peter, say aye.
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 Does anyone oppose? Thank you. It's carried. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
And just to
Congratulations.
Thank you. Just to add to that, Elaine and I have already discussed how we can divvy up the responsibilities of each of us who our interests and so forth. So I think it'll be.
You may proceed. You may go ahead on the record. Okay. On the record.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work together to help each other, and we plan on having a few more meetings than we did last year so that we can really engage with each other and really come up with a solid 2023 plan to get some things moving. Okay? As you guys will see in the schedule here.
Yeah, I think what we'll probably end up doing is sending, after we've formalized our interests, we can kind of send out a message saying,
Absolutely.
these are the areas that Elaine's going to take the lead on, and I'll do the following other topics. And so
Okay.
you have an idea.
Let us do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
That'll be
that
part-
way,
part of the record. Send a copy to John, and also send a copy to our secretary.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll make that part of the record.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That being said, thank you very much for both of you. Thank everybody. Let's go to meetings and forum schedule. That's Elaine.
Okay. I put a schedule together. I will put it up on the screen, and I gave you guys the handouts.
Tell me when you want me to change this.
Okay, go ahead to the next page. There you go. As you can see, we have meetings coming up in March, May, all the way until December. And the plan is to discuss some of the events that are coming up, including Portsmouth 400, the changes in the National Night Out, and also starting up neighborhood parties. with the existing neighborhoods and also getting some new neighborhoods to participate throughout the summer. And those are going to require for us to sit down and meet with each other and talk about how we can get some of the neighborhoods to join to start up associations. I did get Maple Haven started late last year, and I'm hoping to get a couple of other neighborhoods going probably early next month. I haven't had a chance to follow up with them since I've been away, but I do plan on reaching out to them, and I'll keep you guys informed. And I would like to be more inclusive of everybody participating. So I would like to share some of the responsibilities for help, for the association and the neighborhood parties. So if anybody wants to work directly with me, I'd appreciate it. Okay, just let me know. Okay.
All right, so on the upper left-hand corner of the slide, as well as your handout, we have the dates. And below that, we have the forum dates. Lori, would you talk more about the forum dates? I
Yeah.
believe you have several
There's
changes.
a change there.
Yeah, so the next one, at this point, we started scheduling, and they were getting too close together, and they were suggesting, so what I've been doing for the last couple of years is having three a year and then 2 a year. So every 2 years, we would get a full complement of all the wards taken care of. And so what's going to happen is April 6th is the one that's going to be on at the Dondero School for Ward 4, where I'm hoping to have it for April 6th. It's getting complicated with everybody's schedules, so we're now getting 6 people involved in this whole thing. Just for the record, we're getting the mayor, he's part of the panel, there's the chief of the fire department, the police chief, DPW, the city manager, and we're now having Nancy Clayberg from the school.
That's awesome.
So it's really been, it's growing in a nice way, and people are liking it.
Yes, as we talked about before, the forum would be in your district at some point. I think your district.
What ward are you in?
District 1, I think.
Oh, one. We just had that one.
Yeah. But that was
Don't worry,
taken
it's coming
over
again.
by a couple of people, but that's all right. The format is that with all these city officials here, anybody can each one of them will give a brief presentation, but anyone could ask anything of them about any subject related to the neighborhood or otherwise.
Nice.
So it is an open forum, and we've had some fair success with that in recent years. I mean, there was at some point just a few people showed up, but now we're averaging 30 or 40, and we may even get more because we're involving the school districts, and that particular school or schools that are in that particular ward will now be notified specifically that there's going to be a ward forum there and school issues can be addressed.
Yeah.
So I think that broadens the things out a lot. And of course, Peter, you can get the state reps to for that particular ward to show up too, and to get their constituents to show up. So we hope to broaden this just a little bit more. All right, now I guess we'll wait for the next slide on National Night Out. I'll make a few comments on that.
Can I interrupt? So is there a discussion or comments about this February one? Is that undecided?
Yeah.
So that's totally decided. It's not going to happen.
Not gonna happen.
February
Okay.
28th is being
Not gonna
canceled
happen.
right now.
Okay, great.
So you're going to reschedule Ward 2 later then? Is that
Yeah,
the plan?
oh,
Okay.
So we just started this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we're just going to have one more this year.
So you're planning on 3 this year, is that correct?
I think 3 was, how many
Well, we
did we
did
have
3 last
We
year.
did 3
So it's
last
going to
year.
be 2 this year.
2 this year.
All right.
And so it's probably going to be, so the new ones are going to be in like April or May to catch what's going on, and people can ask questions.
Right.
July, August, something like that, in October. November.
Well, you only have two, so.
Yeah, right, but,
Oh,
so we only have 2 left. So we should
John,
probably make it towards, September, October.
so John, would it be appropriate to have it
Right
during
after
election
school starts.
time?
You get all the counselors there.
Maybe we should hold it during election time, right?
Well, election time meaning what? October?
But after, it begins, what, September 1 and ends in
Yeah,
November?
it's-
Something like that?
But it really begins after Labor Day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
so,
had it-
Oh, after Labor Day?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
that'll be
so it could be exciting, right? I mean, for a few people anyhow. Because then they could ask the
24th.
the the council or nominee
Oh, the House
to
is
make an
23rd?
appearance.
We'll get lots of promises.
Of what month in October?
I don't know, it could be different, though.
Yeah.
It could be squirming for some people, but not you, I'm sure. No.
I think that's fine if you want to.
Yeah. Well, it should be after school starts, just because if we have the school board person there, good to be in the school term.
Yeah, right.
So, after Labor Day, basically.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
Okay, so talk about the next one. I'll address some of these because I've been living with them for some time. Portsmouth 400, we've been meeting for a number of months, and last year they gave a presentation about what was happening in 2023, which is an important year for them. It's the 400th. And I will probably reschedule this presentation, but I'm going to insist that they answer the question about what involvement they have, what they want us to do.
Right.
I mean, this is dealing with the neighborhoods is one section of Portsmouth 400. I mean, along with all the other events. So I think it's important for us to participate as much as we can. Disappointment notwithstanding.
Larry, I think it's important, I think one of the important aspects of this kind of committee is that we're trying to make sure that the neighborhoods don't get left behind in all the attention that's downtown is given. Because obviously there's going to be a lot of things happening in the downtown area during this year. And if we as a citywide neighborhood committee would like to make sure that neighborhoods are somehow involved in participating. Who knows, maybe they have ideas they'd like to do in their neighborhoods too. So-
That's right. No, that's exactly correct. So we'll find out a little more after my little note to the people who run this thing.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, National Night Out. I did prepare a survey, but I guess there was it was corrupted by some unknown gremlin. I had space for comments, and apparently there was no space.
Yeah,
So
there's no space
we'll
there.
just have to redo it again.
Okay.
Nobody responded. I'll have to add a few more
They may have
pieces of
tried.
information.
They may have tried,
Yeah.
because I know I tried, but I couldn't.
And I did it as a test, and everything worked out, but apparently, when I sent it out, it changed somehow. Anyhow, the National Night Out, especially for you, John, we had Sergeant Hood on the December 5th meeting, and he had identified 5 central locations for first responders to appear on the night of August 2nd or 3rd, whatever it is this year. And as opposed to personally visiting each neighborhood, and usually the neighborhoods that on that particular day had block parties. Have you participated in any of those?
I have not. no.
Okay.
And
So
how many
anyhow,
were there this time,
Huh?
Larry? How many were there this year?
Oh, well, we had 16.
16,
But,
so-
but in the past, we've had 20. And so people had asked me, well, if they could do 20, why couldn't they do 16? Well, to be honest with you, all the departments, including Public Works, have had staffing problems. We all read in the newspaper about the dispatcher problem with the Portsmouth Police Department. And every single department is short. So they were all stretched out and had a very hard time scheduling. Further, I personally had a hard time reaching no more than 7 of the 16, because the Portsmouth area is such that you can't show up and to a block party and then stay 1 minute, and then have to run to the next one. And the city councilors themselves, I heard some grumblings about them for the same reason. They couldn't make it to every party. And there was one individual in Islington Creek, the Islington Creek coordinator, who complained to the mayor, saying that no one showed up during the central part of their particular block party. Any case, Portsmouth Police Department said that they really needed to have fewer than 16 if we can do it. And so they came up with 5. And the deal is that those 5 locations, we will try to have neighborhood block parties at those locations if they wish it. And like in the Fire Station 2, you had like a couple, right? And so you'd have 5 though, and maybe there'd be some block parties at those locations. They all have parking, and that's important. And for other times other than National Night Out, we really want to encourage neighborhoods to have their own block parties separately, because it's a very important thing. It brings together the neighborhoods, and they're a lot of fun. If you were to attend, you wouldn't have to stay long. You just have to say hello to a couple people and eat some food and thank you very much. But that's sufficient. But the police department said that they would help us get some first responders to show up if it was feasible. In other words, if there was no crisis going on. And so we think that's a workable arrangement, because we really do want those block parties to continue.
And are we on National Night Out or neighborhood?
Yes, National Night Out.
Okay, yeah. I was at some block parties, but I'm not sure they were part of National Night Out.
Yeah, well, they were, but now it's uncoupled, at least partially uncoupled, because we just couldn't visit everything.
The neighborhood
It's so difficult
parties.
to schedule, and the police chief himself couldn't make more than a few, half a dozen. Everyone wants to shake his hand, ask what's going on, blah, blah, blah. It became a real problem. Yes.
The neighborhood parties at the beginning of August, those really came about from the National Night Out event. And now the police department is asking if we could just combine into 5 big parties, 5 big national night neighborhood parties instead of 16.
Gotcha.
Just so that they, as well as DPW, fire, and other first responders can make it to the 5 locations. Because with the 16, it was very hard for them, and for John and for Larry as well. Yeah.
We covered a lot of ground, though.
You had to.
We had a sergeant driving us around.
Oh, that's right, Sergeant Hood, yeah.
But,
Flashing lights.
So I just wanted to say one thing, too. The chief of police, he wants to have more time to talk to these people.
Absolutely.
That's the purpose of going.
Right.
Yeah.
He would
right.
feel like you'd say hi and bye, and
Yes.
it would be on his way, and he just wants to enjoy the whole,
Yeah.
be able to talk to the
But
residents.
let me say for the record that Councilor Tabor spent some time as we were traveling from one neighborhood to another in
Yeah.
the backseat of a police cruiser. So I'm not sure whether he could have opened the doors
Were
or
you with the
not.
canine unit?
The picture of me, they're pushing my head.
And you can't open the door.
But, for the record, the back seat is extremely uncomfortable. And so we swapped, I swapped with him. All right, the lights contest, Elaine, you want to just say a word or two about that?
Yes. So we held the contest, which was awesome, and it was sort of last minute, but it all worked out fine. And I'm happy to say that we had a lot of judges. It was my first time coordinating it, and it was a lot of work, but I really enjoyed it in the end, and it was fun to.
How many were there?
Pardon?
How many judges were there?
Oh,
You were
geez,
approximately.
I can't remember right now, but at
Seven?
least,
Did you have 7 plus kids?
yes, or maybe a dozen, And we had a lot of
22 or 28, something
Yes,
like
that's
that.
right.
Yeah.
Sites, you mean, yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of people
Yeah,
sign
yeah.
up, and it was just a lot of fun. And of course, I went out and I judged as well, and everybody on the committee did as well, which was great. But counting the votes at the end was a lot, but it was great. And I know that I wasn't here for the announcement by the mayor. Did anybody here attend?
I was at-
Oh, you
I
were.
was at-
That must have been a lot of fun.
And the children were so thrilled, and
Oh, yeah.
the families were thrilled, and they stood up and they were so proud. It was a wonderful event.
Oh,
It
yes.
was.
So we're going to continue to do it.
And I realized something about Ocean Road, because we went out to see Al's.
So Al's, yeah, that was something else.
And what I realized,
Yeah.
Ocean Road is like Manhattan. I never realized that until we
Yeah.
got out there and we were trying to take pictures and things, and there was
Yeah.
no way we could really, it was raining, number one,
Yeah,
and
it was
raining, yeah.
it was a dangerous space, and I thought,
Yeah.
and everybody's doing that cutoff, and people
Yep.
have come to us and spoken about that, and to Peter
Yep.
about that,
Yeah.
and it is a danger, so.
It is, yeah, that's my
You know, it
road.
was a real,
On the road,
That's where I
there's no
live.
place to stop.
there's no place
That's
to
right, there's no
stop.
place
There's
to stop.
There's that side road to go see Al's place, but, right.
The lights were fun. We drove around to
Yeah.
check them all out.
Oh, so you did do it.
It was great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Which
it's a
one was your
wonderful event,
favorite?
and it should continue, because everybody's so thrilled by it, I think.
Well, I think,
Probably the winner.
On behalf of the council and the mayor, thanks for all the work that you guys put in.
Yeah.
It really was successful again. What, we have 44 entries, I think.
Yeah.
47, I
Was it?
think,
Is
yeah.
that? Okay.
So,
And it was great fun. We had an interactive map, and I took friends out.
Yes. Stephanie did a great job.
It was
So
fun.
thank you. Good work.
Yeah.
we
It was
got a
fun.
suggestion
Yes.
right before the contest happened from Councilor Bagley, who
That's right.
suggested that maybe there should be an award that's given out to, like just a lot by lottery
Yeah.
for everybody who participated. So that there's like, okay, you can win these categories, but then everybody who didn't win any other category now is in a pool for a special award for participating.
Oh, that's great.
Because I think that would give people a little bit more enthusiasm, and even if you don't win the ultimate one, you can still win that prize.
And you know, Al Bailey is extraordinary, what he put up together.
Extraordinary.
Yes.
I mean,
Unbelievable.
we can't thank him enough, because it is
Yep.
extraordinary.
It's-
But then you realize, afterwards I wrote a note just saying, thank you for everyone who applied. Nuts, bolts, screws, lights, bulbs, the entire thing are into
Yep.
their houses. It was a real effort everywhere throughout the city, so it was terrific.
we need to make sure that Ward 5 participates more than just 3, thank you.
We have a lot of candles in our windows. It's a subtle thing.
Yes. Yeah, with Al is like so overwhelming, everybody just clears the field.
Very subtle.
I saw some wonderful ones as I was doing Ward 5 that were not on the list.
That's it.
Yeah, there were a lot that didn't register.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
So
I
it
did
was, it
too.
was fun.
So not only do they have to do it, they have to call in and
Yeah, they
sign up for
apply
it.
to be yeah.
So I guess we need to send, when we have that the next time, the Friends of the South End need to be
Yeah.
alerted.
Right.
And the notes going out saying, just register, it's free, and you might just pick up a $25 gift certificate from Home Depot or
We do
whatever they
We do have a
have.
great national night out, though, in Ward 5. It's a wonderful national
Yes.
night out.
You
so.
guys do.
We celebrated
They
the
love
summer.
going to your place, I know.
They do love
Oh, yeah.
They
yes,
love
you
our
guys
place,
did.
too.
Yeah.
We don't even ask them to come. We
It's
take
Spinnaker.
Jeffrey Jones.
We should have a most subtle award.
It's
That's
you know,
minimalist.
It's the essence of 1780. That's it. There weren't any
Yeah,
of
the one
those.
with one light bulb.
One light bulb.
There were no balloons in 1780, so what can I say?
That's right. The colonial version,
The
right?
colonial version.
Yeah.
A lot of candles.
That's cute.
Take the issues, or I just can skip through it if you don't want. We talked about fumes and citywide parking session. That didn't go anywhere, and I was a bit disappointed because I was originally on the Islington Creek Parking Committee, and we got 150 votes, and the city in their wonderful wisdom, decided to call each of the 150 near the end of June, when all the teachers were on vacation, and a lot of the leases were coming to pass. A lot of people had moved out. So when I finally reached everybody in their unidentified cell phone number, 100 showed up, 100 verified, and that was most unfortunate. Nevertheless, we did get a parking permit trial, and I was a bit disappointed that there wasn't enough public comment on that. There was like 2 or 3 people. But I rationalized that the pandemic did cause a significant, had a significant impact on people coming and going, especially employees who were staying at home, and that also affected the Foundry Garage, which still has very low numbers. So it had come and had gone. I mean, the demand for parking spaces had eventually become less, and therefore it was a non-issue when the time it was presented before the Parking and Traffic Safety Committee. And maybe that's the way it should be. You know, I mean, some people said it was too expensive, but yes, but no one, I mean, with very little question and answers about how the surveys, how the numbers of $125 a year had come up, how much they were really going to make out of it, the city, that is, and maybe they were administering too hard. I don't know. I mean, there were some questions on that. There were some questions on their survey itself. It's they did it twice a year. You don't know what time of the day it was, but whatever it is, no one questioned those things. Not that it mattered. Fact is, the demand was down. Foundry Garage still has lots of space, and they decided to I believe in my case, I believe it's justified to have terminated it. You know, it wasn't there yet. 3 years from now, parking garages get jammed full, a lot more tourists come into town, and this thing will have to bubble up. At least we'll have some framework to operate from, because we know that the city will go around and count parking spaces. And when the parking spaces are full in the middle of the day at 95 to 98%, then at that point, the neighborhood may be eligible for the parking permits if they want them. You know? Okay.
Hey, Larry, I just want to add, I think that issue that you brought up in your neighborhood, regardless of what happened this time, I think you raised the whole topic of residents being able to park near their homes at a time when other people are competing to get free parking spots somewhere. And this is not going to get any better in the future. It's just going to get worse. So maybe this was not the solution, but I think the fact that you raised this topic and people got a little attention paid to it, I think that is value in itself, because it's not going to be something goes away. It might be just more. So thanks a lot for doing that, actually.
Right, thank you. I felt good after I only heard one voice, and I actually had 2 or 3 voices, and I know all of them. Two of them were from the same household, and they talked loudly, and the other one was Nicole LaPierre, and she speaks beautifully and can go right down to the heart of the issue, but there was nobody else, and it would have been nice to have a little more support, but I couldn't do it, and I had bowed out a long time ago on that. Not because of I wasn't interested, it just it would be a conflict. Anything else on issues? You want to cover brainstorming? I know you talked a little bit about that the other day.
We talked last year about coming together as a committee to brainstorm and speak about issues that we can help neighborhoods out with, or just, maybe we've heard from speaking with a neighbor about a certain issue that we just haven't addressed as a committee. And I think that it would be great for all of us to come together maybe in March and, start that brainstorming process. And we can probably communicate, even before the meeting and over email and such, if possible. So that's why I put in the March meeting, and we have more meetings this year than we did last year, but I think it'll just help us become a stronger committee.
It's on this one.
So the brainstorming, I'll just make one comment about the brainstorming itself. I think I had one person call me and say, how ineffective the Citywide Neighborhood Committee is, and how tied up we are with the city.
Compared to what?
Almost lockstep. Which was, I kind of did not like that particular characters. I invited the person here so they could talk directly to us, but she didn't. But on that regard, we probably at the next meeting should take a few steps to that might help us remove that particular stigma. And that step might be to simply remove the fact that it says the Merrill Blue Ribbon Committee. Drop the word mayor and blue ribbon, and just leave it as the way it is stated in the city network and the city websites as the Citywide Neighborhood Committee, without any other action necessary. John, we had our city attorney talk about removing the blue ribbon aspect of it, and it's kind of a big deal, and it kind of says, well, we'll get a divorce from the city, but that's not exactly what we have in mind. The forums are an enormous importance of getting people to speak their minds and be open about things, and the same for every committee meeting that we have. But even though we have business, we always invite people to come in and talk about any subject if they wish. However, that being said, we certainly want to have more involvement in the neighborhoods and be able to solve many more problems. And with that connection, the chair and co-chair, as well as any committee person, can talk to any city employee about any problem that comes up in the neighborhoods. And we do not have to go through the city manager. And that's a difference. And so that's an important function. I can pick up the phone and talk to Peter Rice. I can talk to the police chief if I want, because there's a traffic problem, an issue, and they'll look into it. And having that relationship with the city is important. And it gives us a reason for being.
Do you know the impetus of that comment, saying that we were in the,
I'm sorry,
do
repeat?
you know what the impetus was for that comment, that we were in cahoots with?
I think the person said that, well, a lot of people go before the city council and they give their opinions and nothing happens, and you're just another location where people can talk about their comments and nothing will happen. Well, oh, okay. I've heard that before. We try not to do that. We've had some successes. If people have some serious problems, we can look into it, and even less serious problems. So anyhow.
And I think our forums address that directly to a lot of people.
Yeah, the
There's open
forums address it very well.
Specifically, I think that they do.
And the more that we penetrate those neighborhoods, such as through the schools, and see if we can't get the police department's website to identify the forum, and maybe the fire department if they have their own website, just to get more participation.
Well, I think the role of this committee, at least as I see it, is being like a middleman between public who has a concern and people on the city staff or city elected officials. We're not the ones making things happen. And we have no authority to do those things. But we do have the capability of funneling those comments to the right people and being able to have people who have issues come to our forum and actually ask these questions openly, publicly to the people who are involved in this. And that's our strength. I mean,
Right.
and for the city council or the city, that's an asset to them, because you know, there are certain limitations what you can do at city council meetings or how you can speak to the manager or people. And so it's a little more cumbersome. And we offer the citizens in Portsmouth the opportunity to go directly from their issues to the person who might do something about those issues. And we've seen in many forums where, whether it's Public Works or the police department, or somebody says, you know, I'm going to look into that for
Right
you,
away.
and I'll get back to you. So it's really a positive feedback loop for them, and I think that's our role. Our role is not to make these things happen that people demand of us. We have no authority to do that.
And John being here is a witness to what's been said here, and he can say that issue's been raised, so this
Yeah.
is where it came
Right.
from. And
That's another thing, yeah.
It adds more validity to what he has to say or whatever, so.
And don't ever think that an issue is raised and just disappears off the map. You know, Edmonds Avenue, that those folks organized, and they really wanted a sidewalk, and we had a meeting for the capital improvement plan,
See.
and they showed up, and their sidewalk is in the capital plan. Now, it's probably not going to happen for 3 years. So for the next 2 years, we're going to hear, we told them what we want and they didn't listen.
Nothing's happening.
But it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Things just, the city moves at the pace the city moves.
Yeah.
Well, that one instance, though, John, I think a year ago or so, maybe 2 years ago, when we had Chevrolet Avenue,
Right.
the sidewalks and the Public Works Department needed to go and get those permissions from the abutters
Yep.
to put the sidewalk in, and we kind of shoved them a little bit through comments and a letter to the city council to kind of move this thing along, you know,
That
go out
happened
and
in
do
record
it. You have the
time.
money for it.
It did.
Go out and do it. And so, you know, there are some things we were able to do with sidewalks,
Yeah.
which are kind of messy.
Sidewalks are really important, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I know.
They're really important.
So I just wanted to just say that people would always be speaking during these forums, which it would always say, you know, it's like I was talking to a friend who said, he was telling him, I was telling him, this is what somebody said, I was telling him about, you know, I told the mayor, we had these ward forums, and he said, you spoke to the mayor, you spoke to the city manager, you spoke to the police department. It's like we got them all worked out then. It's really it's more unique than I've really heard in other places. And
But
seen,
our
so
biggest
it's
problem,
very exciting.
is always reach, and that's a marketing thing. Is how we need to reach more people. I'm not saying we want more business. Issues will be what they are, but on these forums to get as many people in, at least aware that they're there and they have the right to go down to their voting location in effect, and challenge if they want the mayor, you know, and the others about
I had a
doing
couple of
things.
really good forums that, you know, since I've been a member of the committee. I thought they were really, really run well.
I think,
A lot of people showed
I
up.
think at our previous meeting that we had among our committee, I think we were talking about one way of getting the word out is each of us belongs to organizations and social clubs and Rotary or whatever. And if we could take the opportunity at the appropriate time to say, you know, could you give us 5 minutes just to tell people that there is this committee and there are these ward forums. And it's surprising how many people don't know about them. I mean, it's been going on for quite a long time. but I think if each of us tries to reach out in our network of social friends, which I've tried a couple times, and sure enough, people say, "What? I never heard of this before."
No, that's,
Yeah.
that's
So-
Tell
the-
everybody
that's the
I
issue.
need
Yeah, that's the issue. So getting out the word out there is really important.
And that could be your, what you need to do.
Yeah. I know I'm already
It's
doing
matching up the
that.
person with the ward that they're in.
Yeah, that's right. People don't even know what
Telling 'em.
ward they're in, right? So it's hard. Yeah, yeah, it's true.
I love your enthusiasm, Peter.
Well, I'm just brand new yet. I go downhill.
You're doing great.
Keep going. Yes. Okay, I have no other comments. Go ahead. You.
Let's see. So I think,
We just talked a little bit about improving the committee, like awareness.
yes, I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions or additional comments? Oh, you know what? The legislative forums.
Yeah,
Peter.
that'd be great.
Yeah. Legislative? We talked about
Could
that.
we
how
have
you
a
could bring in-
legislative
Yeah.
forum of sorts?
Oh, I think we were talking about, somebody who would be able to tell people about the political process, how things work, maybe?
Or maybe what bills are in that's going to affect the city of Portsmouth? I mean, residents of Portsmouth.
Well,
I don't know, either
think
way.
the city council already does that. They have meeting with the legislative delegation, which I took part in, and they do a good job in trying to identify issues that are important to the city of Portsmouth as they see it. I think maybe, I don't know if most people, I mean, we could do both. We could have an opportunity where people could hear how the state legislature works and how bills can happen, or we can have how things can happen in Portsmouth, which is probably closer to most people's
Yes,
hearts
absolutely,
than
yeah.
what's going on in Concord. But for that, I think we can probably get maybe one of the counselors or someone or a staff member or somebody who would explain to us what the process is. For example, what John was saying, you put something in the capital improvement program, well, what's the delay until it
Yeah.
actually happens, so people get some realistic timelines?
Yes.
I think that's what's maybe missing when people are being impatient about things.
Yeah.
And I know sidewalks are really an issue. In some places, they absolutely need it, and then they tell you, don't do it. We don't want it. Because if you do that, you're going to take property or you're going to take out trees, and how many trees are going to be there after you finish? No, it's going to be a desert. No, we don't want that. We'd rather walk on lumpy sidewalks and in the street than take out one tree. So now you're the bad guy because you want to build a sidewalk.
You have to go through, you have to have the neighborhood have that conversation with
Yes,
itself,
that's
yeah.
right.
which never happens unless you say, let's consider a
Yeah,
sidewalk.
exactly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, there's the tug and the pull and the tug and the pull,
Yeah.
and eventually, hopefully, the neighborhood gets to a consensus. And, maybe you skinny down the sidewalk in some areas, and maybe you don't take out a tree, but that's all part of the process.
Yep, that's the process. And maybe prodding people by threatening to build a sidewalk is a way of getting them to discuss it.
Yeah.
Even let people understand that that's already city property. Remember, that was going to be
Oh,
a
it doesn't
sidewalk.
matter.
I know, but Jim, my garden is on
I know,
that.
it's my garden
It's my
there.
garden, but that's city property, so that awareness is true.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm willing to work with trying to come up with something like that if there's an
Yeah,
interest.
so,
Okay.
so the question really is, there were two choices here. One is, I want to find out what's going on and how these bills come up and who does what in Concord.
Yep.
And the other one is, how do the current bills and proposed bills affect residents of the city of
Absolutely, yeah.
Portsmouth, which
Local.
I believe is the more important
Yeah,
Yes, I
issue.
agree.
Whether we should
yeah.
all come together when the legislative people meet with the city council and say, let's invite everyone on our mailing list and the neighborhoods to get the word out and just, attend that particular session. And maybe that's another
Tomorrow
way
at 9
to.
a.m.
John, I think this is something maybe you can talk to the other counselors about, though, because The trickiest thing about that is that the schedule that the legislature is on is, it's never over till it's over. You know, it's like somebody proposes a crazy bill now, and the city says if this bill passed, it would really harm the city. Well, there's a hearing on it, and everybody's opposed to it. The committee says we're not going to even consider it, so it's off the table, gone. So we shouldn't waste too much time talking about bills that were never going to go anywhere. Okay, but when it gets to a point where it has to go to the Senate and they have to agree, and the Senate now agreed on it, or they're about to agree on it, and we want to stop that, or we want to stop the final vote in the House, that's the time to do something. Because otherwise, you're going to waste your time fighting bills that go nowhere and never had a chance, and alerting the population, please call about this bill, and it's not going to go anywhere. No one's supporting it, but people get upset, you know? So it needs to have the right timing, is what I'm saying. And you guys in the council, when you meet with the legislators, at some point, you know when that point comes where, okay, this is a real important bill for the city, and we need to see what we can do to stop it, either by testifying or by contacting these representatives. But it needs to be at a point where it realistically has a chance of getting passed. Because otherwise, we're just raising hopes to people that they can stop something which is not going to go anywhere anyway.
Right.
And, I mean, it's never a wrong thing to call the governor's office about something, 271-2121.
Thank you.
Because you can always get it something to the governor at any point in the process and get the governor to see if they can weigh in on stopping something. But like I said, it's a long process, and it goes all the way till July 1st almost, until the final things happen. So you don't want to alert people in March about a bill that has no chance. Okay?
Such as the one where they proposed that New Hampshire secede from the Union.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
John,
It's true.
Oh, I believe
Yeah,
it.
and they actually got some.
Well, it was not a bill to secede. It was a bill to have a referendum on the ballot to secede. So they can't actually support secession because that would preclude their oath that they took of office. They would have to be kicked out of the legislature. But you can propose that there be a ballot to ask the citizens of New Hampshire if they would like to secede. Okay, anyway.
Thank you.
Could I ask John a question? How can we be more effective with the council?
Great
All this
question.
together? You know, what's the kind of thing we could bring to the councils?
Well, I think every neighborhood has its issues, right? Panaway right now, we're going to have a neighborhood meeting about the proposal to put 120
Yeah,
units of
the
housing.
Sherburne meeting.
That's
Yep.
high on the list.
Yep.
But equally high on the list are repaving Colonial Drive and sidewalks, and that's been a long-term issue. Elwyn Park is still debating sidewalks. You know, the South End, South End's actually kind of quiet right now,
For the water rising, yeah.
the water, but we've got,
They don't have room for sidewalks.
we never had. But every neighborhood's got its issues, and to the degree that this committee knows those issues and reminds us and comes to us and says, don't forget about sidewalks in Panaway, or, you know, don't forget about, you need a crosswalk near Dondero, which I think we finally got, but, you know, issues like that. Because it's very easy for us to just roll along with what the staff tells us.
Yeah.
But we don't work for the staff, we work for you.
So is the best thing to take that back to, is that for you to take that to the council? Or for us to bring neighbors in? For us as a committee to encourage neighbors to come in?
Anytime that you're getting a neighborhood group, you're getting neighborhood conversation about an issue, and you say, as Citywide Neighborhoods Committee, we want to hear what those issues are in your neighborhood, it bubbles up.
Yeah.
It starts to bubble up.
Well, that's what we want to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's true that I don't really want to mess too much with land use unless it's health and safety and noise and things like that. But short of land use regulations, we can deal with Sherburne School and whatever issues that the parking and traffic safety would not take up.
Right.
You know? And that may be a fine line, but at least we can get in and find out about it. I did ask, I mean, former Representative Callie
Pitts.
yes, Jackie, asked me the other day about, she wanted, why aren't we taking up with, why aren't we interested in the Sherburne School? So I asked her, would you come tonight and talk a little bit about it? And she never replied.
There's a meeting on the 31st. I told you about that.
Yeah, no, but if it's, the thing is, if we know about it, we can certainly put it on the agenda, or we can talk about it offline, emails. If it's important enough, we'll just hold an impromptu meeting, period, you know? And so we're willing to do that, but we need to get the word out that we have to hear about it. And it is in a vacuum sometimes, and then just these things bubble up rather fast.
Right.
There is an issue, and I know that you just mentioned that we want to stay on land use issues, but there is an issue that's been bubbling up throughout the country, actually, and it's about this issue of single-family zoning.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly where it started. I know that there was a big eruption in California because actually they passed a bill that prohibits future zoning of single-family homes. And interestingly enough, the people who supported that bill of eliminating single-family zoning were real estate agents, developers, and the people who opposed it were affordable housing advocates. But that has bubbled out as an issue all over the country, and the case that's being made is to say, if we could just build more housing on the same plot of land, it would be more affordable. And we had two bills in the legislature in the last 2 years that were trying to implement a ban for single-family housing throughout the state, on all municipalities. And that would have a dramatic impact on a lot of neighborhoods. I mean, Panaway Manor would be ripe for that if everybody could have 2 units where 1 unit is. Of course, people who sell things would like that. The inventory would go up. But whether that would create more affordable housing in Portsmouth is questionable.
Yeah.
It would create other issues as well. But that was a zoning issue that, directly would impact people if it was statewide, instead of what it is now, that each municipality can determine that on their own.
Is it worth taking something like that up, grab the bull by the horns in this case, and have a forum on that? When I say forum, we can have a public meeting on
discussion.
that,
Yeah.
and be able to talk intelligently about it, and get people excited about it. Like when we talk, and the example I give is when we were talking about permit parking all over the city, a lot of people came forward. Now, I can assure you, it was a
Yeah.
very exciting meeting with a lot
can
of
imagine.
loud voices,
Yeah.
and people had several accusations about the chair and some others. But nevertheless, it sparked something that we were able to go forward with, at least the suggestions that came out of that. There were so many suggestions, like 20. And then when I took each one of those suggestions from all these outraged people, and I looked at the regulations in the city of Boston on permit parking, lo and behold, I found that a lot of these issues had some merit, and that they were indeed part of the regulations in some of the cities all over the country. So there's a lot to be said for these, getting these, if we can get these points, get the right issue, and get people excited about the issue one way or the other. You just have to have a thick skin, and of course the secretary has to be fast. May need a recording
Or brief.
But if you fill the room,
Yeah.
and then you have your several speakers who are controversial,
Yeah.
like one who's in favor and the other who's opposed, you will get the response, you'll get different responses, and those responses are very useful. I mean, more useful than I thought originally.
Well, as informational meetings, I think they're very helpful. It seems to me, though, for us as a committee, we don't want to take sides in that. Okay, there are too many issues that are not necessarily black and white, and people need to make decisions on their own. And if we can provide a forum with different points of view, that would be very valuable. But I think we need to be careful, as you mentioned with the land use issue, then not to wade into areas that really are way out of our domain,
Yeah.
because people can see this from different points of view, and what they're looking for is some information.
Well, let's take a case in point.
Yeah.
We're going to have a forum on single-family homes, and there's one person sitting over there hypothetically who said, let's do away with them, period. So the next time that house turns over, the owner has an opportunity to put two houses on, or whatever.
Yep.
Okay? Depending on, suppose we did that, all right? And we're not taking sides, because we have one against the other.
Yeah.
The fact that there are so many homes in the city of Portsmouth that are single-family, you'll get them in droves,
Yeah, that's right.
right?
Yeah.
If you want a very successful forum,
Energetic.
that's what we'd have to do.
Yes.
That is exactly what we'd have to do. What do you think about that? You think you'd come in and fight, yell and scream? I mean, that,
Maybe on behalf of
of your own neighborhood or whatever, which is mostly single-family homes.
I'm real close to it already. We don't seem to be having as much, I think, of that issue as across Islington, on this side of Islington Street, where, I've seen people's backyards turned into developments, literally. And,
Right.
Yeah, no,
Right.
there are some issues there.
Yeah.
Now, we're not addressing the issues, we're identifying the issues, is really, because when people come up and they complain, they say, well, I don't want this, and I don't want it in my backyard, and I don't want, 5-story building next to me. We've heard those even on High Street, and, not High Street, Hill Street, and Islington Creek. About when the zoning changes from the middle of the street one way, you can put a 10-story building or an 8-story building in one place, and you have single-family homes on the other. Big difference, a lot of problems. The city doesn't necessarily want to address some of those problems. But if this issue is coming downstream, okay, and it's going to, and like you say, it's already been nibbling at the state legislature, is it worth bringing it up at this time?
I heard
John?
a real estate agent from Dover, who's a member of the legislature, the Democrat, came up to me and said, why aren't you voting for this? This is good for Portsmouth. I said, I don't think it's good for Portsmouth. I've heard too many other issues, negative things about this. That's why, no, it's very good for them. And I didn't want to say, well, aren't you a real estate agent? I mean,
Yeah, but John, this borders quasi-political and stuff like that. I mean, this is a hot issue. What are your thoughts?
It would definitely be a lively forum.
Absolutely.
Would we harm ourselves?
I think if you said in a straightforward way, we want to provide information on this topic, why are some people saying something as radical as
Yep.
it's the end of single-family zoning? And I think you get a lot of turnout. You hopefully, if you had some information-rich speakers,
Yeah,
Yep.
on both sides.
On both sides.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that'd be
Absolutely.
valuable.
Yep.
I don't know that many people would change their minds from the opinion they came in with, but they'd learn something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ultimately, I think it's the council that has to set a policy direction. And the more information, the more debate, the better.
So they'd be interested in the outcome of this.
I think they'd be interested in hearing which way the groundswell of support is running.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, too, you know, I don't want more density in my neighborhood versus, we do have a slow-moving, quiet crisis that you can't maintain a restaurant staff, you can't maintain a city dispatch, fire and police dispatch staff, because people can't afford to live here.
Yeah.
And it's slow, it's like a python around our economy. And
No, it's
so,
just-
you
I
know,
agree.
we as a council have to make a policy decision about how we get more affordable housing, or a series of policy decisions. Is something as radical as a zoning change like that part of the toolkit?
Well, look at
No, it'd
the,
be rough going to do it.
yeah.
That's what I think also about identifying a bill that's going to pass or is not going to pass, or has a chance or doesn't. So again, we're looking at something, and we have to look at it at the level to say, where is it most applicable to us?
Right,
You know, or
right.
what, certainly it's a need, but do we need to go all the way to that point, which would be dramatic?
Yeah, and you can have an idea, you can have a technocrat's solution of, boy, if you did this with zoning, you could have all kinds of density. Great, looks good on paper, you can even model it on a spreadsheet. But in the real world, will people who moved here for the quality of life of their single-family neighborhoods put up with that? You know, you gotta, there's technocratic solutions that suddenly meet the real world.
Well, you know, the thing is, what another aspect of this whole issue with the single-family zoning is that the only places where you could have a big impact with building more is cities, because you have to have sewer and water. So if somebody says, let's build affordable housing in Bedford, New Hampshire, or Amherst, New Hampshire, where I used to live, there's plenty of land, you could do it, but there's no sewer and water. Okay, so developers are not going to develop there. If they're going to develop something, it's going to be where sewer and water is available, and those pricing of the units will be accordingly. So it's kind of, so some of the cities are saying, you know, we're supposed to take all the brunt of doing something on our own to provide affordable housing for the whole state, while smaller towns around us, who are actually wealthier maybe, are not going to do that just because they don't have the infrastructure. And they don't have to. And they're not contributing to it. You have to do it. So it's pretty amazing to me, anyway, to hear with the homeless crisis over in Manchester, that Portsmouth has the second largest homeless shelter here in the state. We're only 20,000 residents.
But we're serving the whole region.
Yeah.
Manchester is the only one that has a larger facility than we do.
I think in the
Not
numbers-
Nashua, not Concord, Portsmouth.
And the people being served by the shelters,
Right,
the food
right.
shelters and the
Right.
food pantries.
So
You know, I'll leave with just one thought. Density and land use and affordable housing have been problems for 2 decades, 3 decades. They will continue to be a problem. So I think you want to ask yourself, where can we be effective?
yeah.
There's no snap solution to that. And, you know, on the other hand, getting a sidewalk in Chevrolet Avenue, that's a nice little win. That makes the quality of life better in that neighborhood. So
Okay.
I'll leave you with that thought.
All right, do we have anything else? Someone say something about the adjournment of the meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So be it, the motion to adjourn. It is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.